Islam. Today we are going to learn about a major world religion, Islam. You should have a couple worksheets from your teacher. One of the sheets is guided notes and the other is vocabulary. When we come to a part that you should use to fill in your guided notes with, you will see a yellow box like the one below. That will be your clue to fill in the blanks on your own page. You should also have a sheet from your teacher that is a vocabulary sheet. When you see some green words that are printed in green, like the ones below, that will be your clue to fill in the information on your vocabulary sheet. So, yellow boxes, guided notes, and green words are vocabulary. If the information is not in a colored box or highlighted, it is still very important. You just don't have to write it down. Let's get started. In about 600 AD, the people in Southeast Asia, called Arabs, created a new empire. The driving force behind their empire was the religion of Islam. Pause your video now and fill in your vocabulary word from this page. Although Islam spread throughout Asia, Europe, and northern Africa in just a century, the homeland of Islam and the Arab people is called the Arabian Peninsula, also called Arabia. Arabia is a huge piece of land between the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. It is very dry and desert-like through most of the land, and the summer temperatures can reach as high as 122 degrees. The only places where water is available is at a spring or an oasis, a watering hole. Pause your video now and fill in the vocabulary word from this page. Long ago, many Arabs were nomads who herded animals and lived in tents. They traveled throughout the desert from oasis to oasis in order to survive the harsh desert climate. These early Arabs formed tribes whose members were loyal to one another. The leader of each of these tribes was called a sheikh. Pause your video now and fill in the vocabulary word from this page. By the 500s AD, many Arab tribes had settled around oases or fertile mountain valleys. They set up villages, farmed or raised animals, and traded goods. Merchants carried goods by camel across the desert to different markets. To protect themselves from thieves or raids, they made their journeys in caravans, or groups of traveling merchants and animals. Pause your video now to fill in the vocabulary word from this page. As trade grew, Arab merchants built towns along the trade routes in Arabia. The most important town was Makkah, also known as Mecca. Makkah was about 50 miles inland from the Red Sea and was a crossroads for trade. Makkah was also an important religious site. In the center of the city was the Kaaba. This was a low block-like building surrounded by statues of Arabian gods and goddesses. Pause your video now to fill in the guided notes from this page. The religion of Islam grew from the preachings of a man named Muhammad. Muhammad was born into a merchant family in Makkah in 570 AD. He was orphaned at the age of 5 or 6. As a teenager, Muhammad worked as a caravan leader. Despite his success, Muhammad was troubled by many things he saw around him, including the greed of Makkah's wealthy citizens. He despised their dishonesty, neglect of the poor, and disregard for family life. Pause your video now to fill in the guided notes from this page. Muslim tradition says that in 610 AD, Muhammad had a vision in which a voice called to him to preach Islam. Islam means surrendering to the will of Allah. In the Arabic language, Allah means God. Pause your video now to fill in the vocabulary word. According to Muslim belief, Muhammad received messages from Allah for more than 20 years. These messages were not gathered into a written collection until after Muhammad died. This collection became the Quran, or Holy Book of Islam. For Muslims, the Quran provides guidelines for how to live. For example, the Quran instructs Muslims to be honest, treat others fairly, respect their parents, be kind to their neighbors, and forbids murder, lying, and stealing. These are all rules for daily living that Muhammad preached to the people. Islam also stresses the need to obey the will of Allah. This means practicing acts of worship known as the 5 pillars of Islam. The 5 pillars are belief, prayer, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. Pause your video now to fill in the vocabulary from this page. When Muhammad died in 632 AD, he didn't leave any instructions about who should be the next leader of Islam. Muslims knew that no person could take Muhammad's role as a prophet. They realized, however, that the Islamic State needed a strong leader to keep it united. A group of Muslim leaders chose a new type of leader for the Islamic Empire called the Caliph, or successor. Pause your video now to fill in the vocabulary word. While Arab Muslims were creating an empire after the death of Muhammad, they began to argue who had the right to succeed Muhammad as a caliph. This caused Muslims to divide into 2 groups, the Sunni and the Shia. The main difference between the Sunni and the Shia is that the Sunni recognize the heirs of the 4 caliphs as legitimate religious leaders, while the Shia only believe the heirs of Ali are the leaders. Pause now to fill in the guided notes from this page. After the end of the Arab Empire, other Muslim groups created their own empires. These included the Ottoman Empire, the Safavid Empire, and the Mughal Empire. The Ottoman Empire was very large. There were many people in the Ottoman Empire who practiced religions other than Islam. Islam was the official religion of the Ottoman Empire, and Muslims enjoyed special privileges. Non-Muslims could live and freely practice their religion in the Ottoman Empire, but they had to pay a special tax in order to do so. Pause your video now to fill in the guided notes from this page. Muslims were successful traders for many reasons. Muslims spread the religion of Islam along with the Arabic language. As a result, Arabic became the language of business and trade in much of Asia and Africa. Muslim rulers also helped traders by providing them with coins to use for buying and selling goods. This was easier than trading and bartering for goods. Muslim merchants kept detailed records of their business dealings and their earnings. In time, these practices created a new industry, banking. Pause now and fill in your guided notes from this page. Muslim cities usually had narrow streets separating closely packed buildings. The main buildings were mosques and palaces. Mosques are Muslim houses of worship. Bazaar. Another important feature of every Muslim city was the bazaar, or marketplace. Like shopping malls today, bazaars were full of shops and stalls where goods were sold. Muslim cities were also known for their beautiful buildings. There were many mosques in Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, and Istanbul. Minarets. The most important and prominent feature of a mosque are its minarets. Minarets are towers from which an announcer calls Muslims to prayer 5 times each day. Pause now to fill in the vocabulary from this page. Muslim cultures made many contributions to modern business, science, and math. One of these contributions was their improvements made to the Greek astrolabe. An astrolabe was a tool used by sailors to determine their location at sea by looking at the stars. Muslim scientists used it to measure the distance around the Earth. Pause here and fill in your vocabulary word.